This channel is not monetized, therefore it does not collect data on its viewers. That being said, this is an adult channel. So to build this, first you need an old cell phone. This is one of my old backup phones. I don't even use this phone service anymore, but the phone still works as a music player and also a camera. It's about 5 or 6 years old. And then I made the console out of corrugated plastic. It's basically the plastic that you see in yard sale signs. The reason I use the corrugated plastic is because it's lightweight and it's pretty stout. It's fairly easy to work with. So I'll show you what you need. You need some decals. I printed these out of my printer. You can get them free on a website called DioRio. That's DIORIO. You need the corrugated plastic, or you can use foam. As you can see, there's printing on this side. It's no big deal. And you need a cell phone. Now this, when I made it, was just an experiment. I threw it together in about 2 hours. And it taught me a lot, because I discovered that the longest part was deciding how to put the decals on. I just printed them out on my printer, but I didn't really have much of a plan, but now I do. What I recommend doing is, to make it all look decent, is taking the decals and print them first, so you know what you've got to deal with. I'm not going to use these light panels. I'll just use this right here, and I can put 3 of these together to make the width of this. Then I can use one of these to make the side. That way it's all going to match, because even though I got a lot of compliments on this, it's kind of thrown together with different decals. And of course, my printer is a brand new printer, but it didn't want to keep up with the color too well. So let's get this started. Now I've got about 5 of these panels. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 of these panels cut out. You can see that a 3 3/4 inch Star Wars figure is about that tall compared to them. So I had him staring at the screen in order to it looked like he was monitoring the situation. I built this box a little bit big. It works good in a diorama, but for like a Death Star playset, it's maybe slightly too tall. As you can see, his height here. Next, I'll take a piece of paper and put over the screen of the phone, and I'll draw a square around it, so I'll have a template, and I can cut that square out and move it around to see where I want to position the hole that I'm going to cut out for the view screen. So as you can see, I put the corner of the paper down here at the view screen, made a mark here and a mark here. Then all I have to do is draw up and make them meet. And there I have a template for my view screen. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, if it was slightly smaller, that would probably be better. You don't want any of the phone showing, just the screen. Okay, so now my template is cut out. But we have to remember how long the phone is also. The phone length is going to be behind the panel. So the panel has to be wide enough to accommodate the length of the phone. Thing's easy. I'm just going to make the panel, my template, the screen of the phone come out at the top of these decals. It's just going to be that much simpler that way, and it's going to look fine with him monitoring the screen. Now I've got the height of how I want it to go. As you can see, these decals, before they're cut in half, are perfect. They go inside a Death Star diorama, and they're just the right size for a 3 3/3 inch figure. So what I'm doing is I'm going to make a line there of where I want the height to be, and then I want to be just inside these decals, because I don't want the walls to show. Now I've made my lines, and with this corrugated plastic, it's definitely going to be easier one way than another. So you want to plan ahead for that. If it's between the ribbing, you will cut a lot easier. Going across the ribbing is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it's nothing that you can't handle. Okay, I've made the up and down lines already. Those cuts are easy. This is the one that's a little bit more difficult. It goes across the ribbing, but you just take your time. Of course, I have some cardboard underneath it to protect the table from the razor blade. And there you go. Pretty nice square end. You can always trim it up a little bit. There. Okay, now I'll lay the decals back on there. And they stick out past the edge a little bit, but that's okay, because we're going to put a side on it, and that'll take up some space. And then here's the template for the screen, and then the phone will be going back behind it. Okay, I've decided where I want my screen to be, and it's going to be up to the edge of this decal, so I'll very carefully cut around this square. And to help me out, I put a little piece of blue tape underneath it, and I took my time and I scored this. Now I'll go back in and follow it again with the razor. And this is the part where you want to take your time, make a nice clean cut, and I'll hold the phone up. I'll hold the phone up there, and as you can see, it looks really good. As you can see, it looks good. It's about the right size. I'll press play on the graphics. It's going to look good. Next, we want to turn it over and make a shelf for this phone. And it's good to make it a little bit lower than you need to, because you can always shim it up. But we'll hot glue that in place, and we can trim it later. And we'll put some hot glue along the sides here. And we'll let that cool. Doesn't take very long for hot glue. And we'll put a little bead of hot glue on the other side too, for good measure. Okay, now we can make the sides. As you can see, the phone is about that deep, so it really doesn't need to go back far, very far at all. In fact, this might be a little bit too wide, but you can always put something back behind it to push it up against the frame. To make things look nice and neat, I'm going to use one of these panels, just one. I'm going to cut it into and use the width of that to make everything look nice and clean and uniform. So I've cut out a piece. That hole doesn't matter. So I've cut out a piece to fit this. And of course there's two sides, so I made two of them. Just the thing to remember is when you're going across the corrugation, you don't try to do it all at once. You drag it across there, make sure it's nice and straight, go another time, 2 or 3 times till you cut all the way through. That'll give you a nice clean cut. So, it's built. Let's put it back on it. It's pretty stout too. So let's put it back on it, and then we'll be about ready to put the decals on. Okay, I put it back on it. Doesn't have to be perfect. And this is, see how stout that is? Pretty stout. Okay, time to put the decals on. Okay, this is what we're going to do. What I do is I just use a little bit of Mod Podge that I've mixed up. A little bit on here. I've tried hot glue. It doesn't work very good. I like Mod Podge because you can move the decal, which is just off my printer. And you can move them around and get them placed just right. Of course, it does take longer for it to dry, but that's okay. Not in any hurry. And of course, we can always lay that upside down and it will press any wrinkles out. I got a little wet there, but that will come out. Okay, and then along the tops and edges, I decided to go with the light panel effect because you can cut them down to a size and it still looks good. And there we have it. And then now let's put the phone in and adjust it. Now, as you can see, looks pretty good right there, but there's some room in here. The phone needs to be adjusted. So what we can do is we'll just put some scrap in the back of the phone, and it looks like the phone's down a little bit too low. So we'll take some scrap and put down in the bottom of it to add some space. A spacer, if you will. So I ended up putting a couple of scrap pieces back behind it and then one underneath it. And as you can see, it looks pretty good. I should have cut a little bit thicker up here, but what I can do is you can add to this with the hot glue and the corrugated plastic. It's easy to do. And now about the graphics. So basically you just go to Google and you can look for sounds for Star Wars. Here you can go to Star Wars Sound Archive and download them for free. And there's a site called Soundboards or Soundboard, and you go down to the one that's on this diorama part that I've created. Is called Com Chatter. It's right there, Com Chatter, and you can download it. As far as the graphics, you go back to Google, and they're basically screensavers, and you can get them for free. And there's a surprising amount of people that put Star Wars screensavers on YouTube. So if you have an app that records your screen on your phone, you can just record the screensaver, and then you can overlay the com chatter sound, and that's what I did. And there you have it. As you can see, since the phone is a touchscreen phone, you can adjust it. Now I can also put a piece of decal across this to hide that corrugation. And as you can see, he fits, or the, well, what would you call it? Kiosk? It fits underneath the Death Star playset that I'm working on. Now the upper few levels it may not fit, but you can always trim it down. You can always cut off the top. I still need to do some trimming on this to make it look good, but it'll fit. After I trim it, it'll probably fit up inside there. Right now it will not, but it's close. I just have to decide where I want to put it at. I want to make several of these. If you have a bigger cell phone, you could actually make a screen for Star Trek Bridge, because they make free screensavers and Star Trek sounds to download also. So tell me what you think. And oh, the apps that I use I use a screen recorder app, and I used an app called Inshot on my phone. I did all of this on my phone. I showed you on my laptop a while ago just because I'm using my phone right now. So there we go. If you got any questions or improvements, just let me know. I would have put a control panel there like I did the other one, but honestly, a lot of Star Wars, you just had the display and the controls were elsewhere, which I've found some of the decals for that too. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and we will see you next video.